Sit up.
So what's your name?
My name's Ryan Yantis.
Where were you when this happened?
This being the September 11th attack,
Yeah.
I was an Army officer assigned into the Pentagon, and I was working as a media relations officer, answering questions about America's soldiers and our Army policy for personnel.
How old were you when you witnessed the attack?
When I was 40 years old, 40 and a half when the plane hit the building, so still young.
What was your first reaction when you saw it?
Well, I didn't hear or feel the impact of the aircraft on the building. You have to understand that the size of the Pentagon is fairly immense. Each one of the outside facing sides is 72 feet tall and 907 feet long. So it's 3 football fields in length, and they're big concrete walls with limestone facade, a limestone covering. Basically, off of Corridor 7 where I was at, the only thing I heard was the alarms going off, and then the sergeant looked at us and said, "Gentlemen, there's been an attack, you need to evacuate." And that's when we found out that the plane hit near Corridor 4.
How did you first hear of it, like when they hit the terrorist towers?
Well, my office, we did media relations. So at my desk, I had a little TV set, and it was a special TV where I had 4 different TV channels on the same screen, a little split screen, and I could decide which audio input to watch. And I'd come out of a morning meeting that had run long, and I saw the initial footage of an aircraft accident or incident in New York. So it was shortly after the first plane hit at 8:46 that morning that we were aware. At 9:03, I was with my team. There were 10 or 12 of us. We were watching the big screen TV in our office area and saw the second plane hit. And that's right when I knew that we had been attacked.
How was your reaction and emotion towards what happened?
Well, 2 parts. I was angry because somebody was attacking us and hurting people. And then there's also something that time relative to action tends to dilate. And this sounds kind of funny, but my training as a Boy Scout, my training as a cadet, and then the 20 odd years I'd already done in the Army, you get a lot of training in responding to crisis and first aid and helping people. And there's a certain amount of what I'll call muscle memory, where you already know what you're going to be doing, and you see a need and you start doing it. So from 9:03 until about 3 that afternoon, when I go back and I think about all the individual things that were done, I often question my sanity of how could I have done that much, but how did everybody do that much? We were all had first aid training. We all knew how to serve. We all worked well together. There was nobody yelling at us and telling us to run back in the building. Matter of fact, the security guards were telling us not to go in the building, but there were people who needed to be helped, and we did an awful lot. So the longer the day wore on, and once we ran out of people to help out of the building and injured to get first aid, there was a certain amount of standing around and trying to get back into the building. The fire was so intense and there was so much smoke, and that was frustrating. And that's when you started hearing rumors about what was happening outside of the Pentagon, because our focus was right down on that 5-acre inner courtyard where I was from about 10:45, 11 o'clock until 3 in the afternoon. It was an incredibly long, hot day, and I got to see people doing the very best things for each other and trying to help people. People that might not know, might not like, but they were still trying to help them.
What was the city's tone afterwards, like on the September 12th?
I'm not a good person to ask because I went back to work in the Pentagon on September 12th, and my first day back in the building was my day 1, and the building was on fire. It burned for 3 more days. We were still trying to figure out who was missing, who was injured, where people were, because accounting for your people is an important thing within the military. And my team and I handled all of the press releases and the public information about Army fatalities. And we had to make sure that the bodies had been found by the right people, the search and rescue folks, that they were positively identified through forensics and DNA, that the next of kin, the families, had been notified and been given time to process that, and then we would make the announcements. And there was a lot of confusion. At one point, even though I helped do all these different things, one of the sergeants that worked with us came up and he said, "Sir, you're on the missing list." What do you mean I'm on the missing list? I'm here. I've been here. No, you haven't checked in. You need to go call this number and do it. I helped set up that number. So I had to go back and follow the rules and call in and say, yes, I'm still alive. I had a captain who worked with me, and her office was right across the hall from where the plane hit. And for 2 days, I thought she was dead. Really, really good young lady. Fortunately, she had been late getting into the office because she went for a run that morning. So in her case, physical fitness was a good thing. She's now a mom and a retired colonel. So, good.
So, years later, what do you think there's gonna be no attack at the U.S.?
It's always possible. We've been very fortunate so far in the past 18 years, and you still have had things like the Boston Marathon bombers, where those were two brothers who got radicalized and got some training and got the wherewithal to build the pressure cooker bombs. In that, they made an attack and they hurt people and killed people, but they ultimately failed because the city of Boston is stronger and the Boston Marathon is still stronger. There's a lot of resolve. One lone actor with the right materials can do a whole lot of damage. Our goal, or my goal, would be to make sure that the power of our government and our people is looking holistically, from military to law enforcement, economic, information, diplomatic, to make sure that we reduce those chances for the bad guys to hurt us.
For the people who aren't alive, how would you describe 9/11 to them?
The ones who died because of the attack, or the ones that haven't been born yet?
The ones who haven't been born yet.
Well, in American history or in world history, there are events that are seminal. That, for example, when the Allies landed in Normandy during World War II, that was a very important day. When World War II ended in Europe, very important day. When man landed on the moon in 1969, it was July 21st, very important day. John F. Kennedy was shot November 23rd of 63, very important day. People who are alive in those days remember it because they were there when they got that either good news or the gut punch of bad news. For September 11th, for the young, such as yourself, or the ones that haven't been born yet, understand that September 11, 2001 was both a gut punch to the United States in peace and freedom, but it's a very important date, and it's changed who we are and how we are in many ways for the better, but it reminds us also to try to be better going forward. And that's one of the reasons I like going and talking in schools. I like taking interviews and talking to young people. I'm an artifact. I'm a historical artifact that can still talk and still share. So that's my goal.
How many people were still alive that when the Pentagon got built?
The absolute number of people who are Pentagon survivors is about 20,000. Okay? The vast majority of them did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were told, time to evacuate, get your stuff, go home. Mm-hmm. And they quickly and quietly evacuated the building. They helped other people out if they needed it. And then they went home and waited for further instructions. There was a special kind of stupid people like me who made it out of the building successfully and then saw that there was a need to go back in and help others. So I have a lot of respect for fire and emergency services, the paramedics, law enforcement, but there were a lot of unofficial first responders, myself included, who had made it out successfully and then kept going back in because there were people in need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Madeline. I've enjoyed it.
I'm good too.
How about your mom?